Warming up before and even in between ranked games is essential for keeping your hands and mind focused on hitting those headshots. We all know this by now. Most of you probably warm up using Aim Labs or Kovaaks or Valorant's own Deathmatch game mode, maybe even a combination of those. While Deathmatch is great for practicing your shots onto real targets, Deathmatch can also be used for so much more. Hey guys, it's Signal, your favorite furry Valorant player. Today I'm going to show you 10 drills / things you should be doing in Deathmatch to improve not only your aim, but your movement skills, as well as game sense. The first drill we're going to talk about is Crosshair Placement. If you don't know what Crosshair Placement is, it is the idea that your crosshair should always be where an enemy could show up, specifically at the enemy's head. It's easy to go into a custom game by yourself and practice this, but why not practice it with real targets? Here we're focusing entirely on keeping the crosshair at head level and making sure we are taking things like elevation into consideration. Don't worry about shooting the targets if you're new to this. All you're doing is making sure that when an enemy does swing an angle you're looking at, that your crosshair is level with the enemy's head. Once you get good at this, you can start adjusting your crosshair slightly and shooting back at them. Notice how whenever I'm peeking enemies or an enemy peeks me, my crosshair is always pretty close to where their head is. I recommend to use a sheriff for this drill, because if your crosshair placement's good, then you should only have to worry about adjusting your crosshair slightly and clicking the head. Whereas if you were using a phantom or a vandal, you'd probably be a bit more inclined to spray instead of clicking on the head. Oftentimes, I catch myself being very reactive when shooting back at enemies in Valorant. And by reactive, I mean I immediately crouch and spray at the enemy instead of taking the time to line up a more controlled shot. If you do this a lot, this is the drill for you. In this exercise, you're going to be focusing entirely on tracking enemies that appear on screen. Don't worry about shooting them until they give you a clear, easy shot. This is how you train yourself to be less reactive when an enemy shoots you and more disciplined. Try to track the target for as long as possible before shooting, especially if they're turned away from you. Eventually, you'll be able to hit headshots on moving and strafing targets before they're able to kill you. You can use any weapon for this, but I suggest using the Vandal or Phantom for this one. Next on our list, we have taps. This one is not special in any way, but sometimes spending an entire round of deathmatch going only for headshots is a fantastic way to practice your aim against actual players. Use the Vandal, Sheriff, Guardian, or even the Marshal, and focus solely on landing one-hit headshot kills against opponents. Keep yourself disciplined on the trigger and spam as little as possible. This means no spraying, you're going to be focusing on one shot, one kill headshots, or 2 taps if you're using the Sheriff. And this is a great way to see if your crosshair placement and microflicks are solid. If you really want to challenge yourself, grab something like the Ghost and go for 2 tap headshots. This is a great way to practice your pistol aim. The next topic on our list is spray. Again, not very special. Here you're going to want to pick a weapon you want to practice the spray control of. If you need to get a good idea of the weapon's spray pattern, you're going to want to stand about 10 meters away from a wall, and you're just going to empty the entire mag into the wall without dragging the mouse down. You're just going to click and hold. In this example, I'm using the Phantom. Notice how the spray pattern goes up, then to the left, then to the right, before the mag is empty. So what I'll do to compensate for that is I'll pull the mouse down, then to the right, and then to the left. Notice how my spray is much more controlled. Once you're comfortable with the weapon spray pattern, then you can start practicing it against enemies, where there you're going to be compensating for their movement and obviously they're going to be shooting back at you. 2 tips I'll share with you real quick for controlling spray is 1, pay attention to where your bullet tracers are going. That's how you're able to see if you're hitting your target or not, but also which way to compensate, as well as look at the barrel of the weapon you're firing because it'll actually point in the direction that you are spraying or the bullets are going. Believe it or not, deathmatch can also be used to perfect your peeking techniques, such as jiggle peeks, jump peeks, and wide peeks. I'll give a quick rundown in case you don't know what any of that means as to what these 3 peeks are. Jiggle peeks involve taking your knife out and getting as close to the wall as possible, strafing out far enough just to get vision on where an enemy is, then strafing back into cover. Jump peeks are the same, but with the added element of jumping, pressing the opposite strafe key while in the air to move back into cover. Wide peeks are when you swing out of an angle much further than a person anticipates, forcing them to adjust their crosshair. You can use deathmatch to practice all these types of peeks, but with the added element of whipping your weapon out after getting vision to swing and then take them out. Here's one I don't see a lot of people doing. Actually, these next couple of drills I don't see a lot of people doing. But you can use Deathmatch to practice your site takes. When you spawn, simply start heading towards the nearest bomb site. As you make your way towards the site, you're going to be clearing common angles that defenders tend to hold. Or, if you spawn on the defender side of the map, pretend you are retaking the site and you're clearing angles that the attackers like to hold on the post plant. Make sure that you're taking it one angle at a time and go slow if you have to. See how I'm stopping my movement as I clear each angle? You're going to want to do that in case an enemy's there, so that way you don't have to reactively stop when the enemy starts shooting at you. Don't worry about any audio cues that enemies might be making. Even if you know an enemy isn't in a certain spot, your goal is to develop a habit of clearing sites properly. On the contrary, another drill you can do is once you clear a site, you can do your absolute best to defend the site, holding angles attackers like to swing when taking a site. You might get called an insane amount of expletives for it, but this is a valuable skill to learn for your actual matches. You can hold spots like B long on Bind, A short on Haven, and all sorts of different spots attackers like to push. The third drill that's kind of part of this lump of site takes and retakes and defending sites and whatnot is you can pre-fire these angles too and get some pre-fire practice in. It's especially good while clearing sites. You can start pre-firing common angles as you clear them, making sure your bullet hits the wall at head level. You can even pre-fire the same angle multiple times to get some strafing / counter strafing practice in. Alright, these next two are a little bit more fun, but still a great way to get some additional practice in. Sometimes just using a Phantom or Vandal your entire deathmatch is really boring. I'll pick 4 weapons I want to practice with and just try to get 10 kills with each weapon. Usually I'll go with the Phantom first as a comfort pick, playing how I usually play. Then I'll switch to the Vandal and practice my headshots onto enemies. Then I'll really change it up with a Spectre because that gun's insane right now and I need more practice with it. Finishing the deathmatch with a Marshal. But you can pick any combinations of weapons you'd like. I'd even encourage trying pistols. I try to pick up guns that have different playstyles, so something like a rifle, followed by a pistol, then a sniper, then an SMG, because you have to play differently to use all of those weapons to their full potential. The last thing I encourage you to try in deathmatch is playing completely without sound. Often I will hop into a deathmatch and just mute the audio. Why? Because it prevents me from using the footstep sounds to my advantage and forces me to check every angle, being constantly aware of my surroundings. It also gives me an excuse to jam out to some non-copyright tunes while playing. I highly encourage you give this a try. Now, I want you to remember for all of these drills that there is no incentive whatsoever to actually win in deathmatch. You shouldn't be getting frustrated doing any one of these exercises. The goal here is not to get 40 kills, but to practice your game mechanics. You don't have to dedicate an entire deathmatch to just one of these drills either. You can do 2 or even 3 of these at the same time in a single deathmatch, such as taking sites but also switching guns every so often. That's just an example. Don't bite off more than you can chew, and don't feel bad about having to take things one step at a time. It is how you get better. So that's it for the video, guys. If you found it useful, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for some more Valorant content. I also stream a couple times a week on Twitch, mostly my Immortal solo queue experience. I also have a Discord server you can join where we can chat. And in the near future, I'll be hosting custom Valorant games, playing with Twitch subscribers on Valorant, but also probably a couple other games, and running polls for the next video topic. Hopefully I'll catch you there. See you soon.